Learn common English sentences used every day. Hello, my dear friends. Today, we're going to learn sentences that you can use every day in English. These are simple, practical sentences that will help you communicate naturally and confidently. The goal is not just to memorize words, but to use them in real life. When you practice these sentences daily, your English will improve and speaking will become easier for you. Let's start with greetings. When you meet someone, the most common sentence is, "Hello, how are you?" You can respond, "I'm fine, thank you, and you?" Or, "I'm good, thanks for asking." If someone asks, "How have you been?" you can say, "I've been doing well, thank you." These are simple ways to start a conversation politely. You can also say, "Nice to meet you," when meeting someone for the first time. If you want to be a little more casual, you can say, "Hey, what's up?" and respond with, "Not much, you?" Or, "Just working, studying, and you?" When you want to ask someone about their day, you can say, "How was your day?" or, "How's your day going?" A good reply could be, "It was good, thank you," or "It's going well, thanks." If you want to show interest, you can ask, "What did you do today?" These are sentences that make conversations smooth and friendly. If you need to apologize, you can say, "I'm sorry," or "I apologize." If you want to be more specific, you can say, "I'm sorry for being late," or "I apologize for the mistake." When someone apologizes to you, you can respond, "It's okay," "No problem," or "Don't worry about it." These sentences help keep communication polite and respectful. When you want to thank someone, you can say, "Thank you," or "Thanks a lot." If you want to be more formal, you can say, "I really appreciate it," or "I'm very grateful." When someone thanks you, you can respond, "You're welcome," or "No problem." These sentences are very common in daily life, whether at home, work, or school. When asking for help, you can say, "Can you help me?" or "Could you please help me?" If you are asking politely, you can say, "Would you mind helping me?" When someone agrees to help, they may say, "Sure, no problem," or "Of course." These sentences are very important because asking for help politely is a key part of communication. When you want to give directions, you can say, "Go straight," "Turn left," or "Turn right." If someone asks, "Where is the nearest bank?" you can respond, "It's next to the supermarket," or "Go straight for 2 blocks, then turn right." These simple sentences make it easy to guide someone or ask for directions yourself. When you want to invite someone, you can say, "Do you want to come to my house?" or "Would you like to join us for dinner?" You can also say, "Let's go to the park," or "Come with me." If someone invites you, you can respond, "I'd love to," "Thank you, that sounds great," or "I'm sorry, I can't, maybe next time." These sentences help in social situations and making friends. When shopping, you can ask, "How much is this?" or "Can I try this on?" If you want to buy something, you can say, "I'll take it," or "I'd like to buy this, please." When asking for recommendations, you can say, "Which one do you recommend?" or "Do you have this in another color or size?" When paying, you can say, "Can I pay by card?" or "Do you accept cash?" These sentences are very useful for daily errands. When ordering food or drinks, you can say, "I would like a coffee, please," or "Can I have a sandwich?" If you are at a restaurant, you can ask, "What do you recommend?" or "Is this spicy?" When asking for the bill, you can say, "Can I have the bill, please?" or "Could we pay, please?" Practicing these sentences will make your dining experiences smoother and more comfortable. When talking about time, you can say, "What time is it?" or "Do you have the time?" You can reply with, "It's 3 o'clock," or "It's 2:30. If you want to schedule a meeting, you can say, "Let's meet at 5 p.m." or "Can we meet tomorrow morning?" These sentences are very practical for appointments, meetings, and daily routines. When talking about your feelings, you can say, "I'm happy," "I'm sad," or "I'm tired." You can also say, "I feel excited," or "I feel nervous." Asking someone, "How do you feel?" or "Are you okay?" shows that you care. Expressing your feelings clearly helps people understand you better and makes conversations more meaningful. When giving opinions, you can say, "I think this is good," or "In my opinion, this is the best choice." You can also say, "I don't agree," or "I'm not sure about that." Asking for opinions, you can say, "What do you think?" or "Do you agree?" These sentences help in discussions, debates, and everyday conversations. When talking about the weather, you can say, "It's sunny today," "It's raining," or "It's very cold." You can ask, "How's the weather there?" or "Will it rain today?" Talking about the weather is a common way to start a conversation with anyone, even strangers. When talking about your daily routine, you can say, "I wake up at 7 a.m., I go to school/work at 8 a.m., or I go to bed at 10 p.m. You can ask someone, "What do you usually do in the morning?" or "How do you spend your weekends?" Sharing routines helps people know more about your life and makes connections easier. When expressing preferences, you can say, "I like coffee," "I love reading," or "I prefer tea over coffee." Asking about preferences, you can say, "Do you like movies?" or "What's your favorite food?" These sentences are great for conversations with friends or family. When expressing needs or wants, you can say, "I need help," or "I want to go home." You can also say, "I would like some water," or "I need a break." Asking politely, you can say, "Could I have some water, please?" or "Would you mind helping me?" Using these sentences makes your communication polite and clear. When asking questions in general, you can use sentences like, "Where is the bathroom?" "What is this?" or "Who is that?" You can also say, "When does the bus arrive?" or "Why is this happening?" Questions are very important because they help you get information and keep conversations going. When responding to questions, you can say, "It's here," or "It's over there." You can also say, "It's my favorite book," or "He is my friend." Simple answers like yes or no are often enough, but you can also give more detail to make the conversation interesting. When talking about past experiences, you can say, "I went to the market yesterday," or "I saw a movie last night." You can also say, "I have visited that place before," or "I have never tried this food." These sentences help you share experiences and connect with people. When talking about future plans, you can say, "I will go to the park tomorrow," or "I am going to study tonight." You can also say, "I plan to travel next month," or "I hope to learn English fluently." Talking about the future shows your intentions and helps others understand your goals. When giving advice, you can say, "You should study more," or "You should rest." You can also say, "It's better to take a break," or "Try to speak English every day." Giving advice politely is very important and helps people see that you care. When making suggestions, you can say, "Let's go to the park," or "How about watching a movie?" You can also ask, "Do you want to try this?" or "Shall we take a walk?" These sentences make planning activities with friends or family easier. When asking for permission, you can say, "Can I go out?" or "May I use your pen?" You can also say, "Is it okay if I open the window?" Giving permission, you can say, "Sure, go ahead," or "Yes, that's fine." Polite permission phrases are important for respectful communication. When expressing ability, you can say, I can speak English, or I can swim. You can also say, I cannot do this, or I can't come today. Asking about ability, you can say, can you help me, or are you able to finish this task? These sentences help in showing your skills and understanding others' capabilities. When expressing necessity, you can say, I must go now, or you must try this. You can also say, I don't have to work today, or you don't need to worry. Talking about necessity is common in everyday conversations and helps you explain rules or responsibilities. When talking about possibility, you can say, it might rain today, or you may succeed if you try. You can also say, this could be helpful, or it's possible to finish on time. These sentences help express uncertainty or probability, which is very common in daily life. When expressing likes and dislikes, you can say, I like chocolate, or I don't like spinach. You can also say, I enjoy reading books, or I hate waiting in long lines. These sentences help people understand your preferences. When expressing surprise, you can say, wow, that's amazing, or I can't believe it. You can also say, really? Or no way. These sentences make conversations lively and show your emotions clearly. When expressing agreement, you can say, I agree, or that's right. You can also say, exactly, or you are correct. When disagreeing politely, you can say, I don't agree, or I see it differently. These sentences are important in discussions or debates. When expressing gratitude, you can say, thank you very much, or I really appreciate your help. You can also say, thanks a lot for everything, or I'm grateful for your support. These sentences show respect and kindness. When offering help, you can say, can I help you? Or do you need any help? You can also say, I can do this for you, or would you like me to help? These sentences make your communication caring and supportive. When saying goodbye, you can say, goodbye, or see you later. You can also say, take care, or have a nice day. When someone says goodbye to you, you can respond with the same sentences. These are polite ways to end conversations. When making a phone call, you can say, hello, is this name? Or can I speak to name, please? You can also say, I'm calling about, or I wanted to ask you. These sentences are very common for phone conversations. When answering the phone, you can say, hello, this is name, or yes, speaking. You can also ask, who is calling? Or may I ask who's calling? These sentences make your phone communication polite and clear. When writing emails or messages, you can say, dear name, I hope you are doing well. Or I am writing to inform you. You can also say, please let me know if you have any questions, or looking forward to your reply. These sentences are useful for professional and formal communication. When apologizing in a formal way, you can say, I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience, or I regret the mistake that occurred. You can also say, please accept my apology, or I hope you can forgive me. Formal apologies are important in work or professional life. When making requests politely, you can say, could you please send me the document? Or, would you mind helping me with this task? You can also say, I would appreciate it if you could. Polite requests make communication respectful and professional. When talking about health, you can say, I have a headache, or I am feeling sick. You can also ask, are you feeling okay? Or, do you need a doctor? These sentences are useful in everyday situations where health is discussed. When expressing emotions, you can say, I feel happy, or I am sad. You can also say, I am excited, or I am worried. Asking about emotions, you can say, "How do you feel?" or "Are you okay?" Talking about emotions makes communication more human and understanding. When complimenting someone, you can say, "You look nice today," or "I like your dress." You can also say, "You did a great job," or "That's very impressive." Compliments make people feel appreciated and valued. When responding to compliments, you can say, "Thank you," or "I appreciate it." You can also say, "That's kind of you," or "Thanks, I worked hard on it." These sentences show gratitude and politeness. When talking about travel, you can say, "I'm going to the airport," or "I will travel next week." You can also ask, "Have you ever been to this place?" or "What's the best place to visit in this?" Talking about travel is a great way to connect with others and share experiences. When shopping online, you can say, "I want to buy this item," or "Does it come in another color or size?" You can also ask, "What is the delivery time?" or "Can I return this if it doesn't fit?" These sentences are very practical for online shopping. When talking about studies, you can say, "I have a test tomorrow," or "I'm studying for my exams." You can ask, "Did you finish your homework?" or "Can you help me with this question?" These sentences are useful for students and learning environments. When talking about work, you can say, "I have a meeting today," or "I'm working on a project." You can ask, "Do you need any help with your task?" or "What is your deadline?" Talking about work helps keep communication professional and clear. When giving instructions, you can say, "Please read this carefully," or "Follow these steps." You can also say, "Don't forget to," or "Make sure to." Clear instructions help avoid confusion and mistakes. When making promises, you can say, "I will do my best," or "I promise to help you." You can also say, "I will not forget," or "I will try my best." Promises build trust and responsibility. When talking about past habits, you can say, "I used to play football," or "I didn't like vegetables as a child." You can also say, "I would always go for a walk," or "I always helped my parents." Talking about past habits helps share experiences and memories. When giving reasons, you can say, "Because I was tired," or "Since it's raining, I stayed home." You can also say, "Due to the traffic, I arrived late," or "For this reason, I decided to study more." Giving reasons makes your communication clear and logical. When talking about quantity, you can say, "I have 2 books," or "There are 5 people in the room." You can also say, "I need a few minutes," or "We have enough chairs." Talking about quantity helps in daily tasks, shopping, and planning. When expressing certainty, you can say, "I am sure," or "I know it's true." You can also say, "There is no doubt," or "I'm confident about this." Expressing certainty helps in decision-making and clear communication. When expressing uncertainty, you can say, "I'm not sure," or "Maybe." You can also say, "It could be true," or "I'm not certain about that." Expressing uncertainty is common in everyday conversations and shows honesty. When expressing possibility, you can say, "It might happen," or "It may rain today." You can also say, "It could be helpful," or "There's a chance we can succeed." Talking about possibilities helps in planning and expectations. When talking about habits, you can say, "I usually wake up early," or "I often go for a walk." You can also say, "I sometimes eat out," or "I rarely watch TV." Talking about habits gives insight into your life and routine. When talking about abilities, you can say, "I can cook," or "I can drive a car." You can also say, "I am able to help," or "I cannot lift heavy things." Talking about abilities shows what you can do and helps in collaboration. When talking about obligations, you can say, "I have to study," or "You must wear a uniform." You can also say, "I need to finish my work," or "We should follow the rules." Talking about obligations helps set expectations and responsibilities. When talking about preferences, you can say, "I prefer tea over coffee," or "I like summer more than winter." You can also say, I enjoy reading books, or I don't like waiting in lines. Preferences help others understand you better. When expressing hope, you can say, I hope you are well, or I hope to see you soon. You can also say, I wish you good luck, or I hope everything goes well. Expressing hope is kind and encouraging. When expressing regret, you can say, I wish I had studied more, or I regret not telling you. You can also say, I'm sorry I missed the meeting, or I should have called earlier. Expressing regret is honest and helps improve relationships. When giving compliments, you can say, you look great today, or your word is excellent. You can also say, I like your idea, or that's very creative. Compliments make people feel appreciated. When responding to compliments, you can say, thank you so much, or I appreciate it. You can also say, that's kind of you, or I'm glad you liked it. Responding politely keeps the conversation positive and respectful. You can also add, it means a lot to me, or thanks, I worked hard on it, to make your response warmer. When asking for clarification, you can say, can you explain that again? Or I don't understand, can you help me? You can also ask, what do you mean by this? Or could you give an example? These sentences are very useful when learning or in conversations where things are unclear. When giving clarification, you can say, let me explain, or what I mean is. You can also say, for example, or to put it simply. These sentences make communication clear and help avoid misunderstandings. When making comparisons, you can say, this is better than that, or I like tea more than coffee. You can also say, my house is bigger than yours, or summer is hotter than winter. Comparisons help people understand differences and preferences. When giving warnings, you can say, be careful, or watch out. You can also say, don't touch this, or it's dangerous. Warning sentences help prevent mistakes and keep people safe. When expressing excitement, you can say, I'm so excited, or this is amazing. You can also say, I can't wait, or I'm looking forward to it. Expressing excitement makes conversations lively and shows your enthusiasm. When expressing disappointment, you can say, I'm disappointed, or that's unfortunate. You can also say, I expected more, or I'm sad about this. Sharing disappointment helps people understand your feelings and shows honesty. When talking about habits in the past, you can say, I used to play football every weekend, or I didn't like vegetables when I was young. You can also say, I would always help my parents, or I often stayed up late studying. Talking about past habits helps you share your history and memories. When offering suggestions politely, you can say, how about trying this? Or maybe we can do it this way. You can also say, I suggest we start early, or why don't we ask for help? Polite suggestions make teamwork and cooperation easier. When expressing preferences politely, you can say, I would prefer tea, or I would rather go home now. You can also say, if possible, I'd like to choose the blue one, or I'd rather stay here. Polite expressions of preference are respectful and clear. When giving advice gently, you can say, I think you should rest, or it might be better to ask someone. You can also say, try to practice every day, or it would be helpful if you studied a little more. Gentle advice is often more effective because it is kind and encouraging. When talking about plans, you can say, I plan to travel next month, or I'm going to study tonight. You can also say, I hope to finish my project soon, or I intend to learn English fluently. Talking about plans helps people understand your goals and intentions. When giving instructions politely, you can say, Please read this carefully or follow these steps. You can also say, don't forget to or make sure to. Polite instructions are important in work, school, and daily tasks.